What up, YouTube? It's your boy Banks, and we back in the building. You feel me? It's True Talks, cause True Talks. All right, let's get straight right into it. So we know, man. Obviously, last night or the day before that was trade deadline, Thursday afternoon. And you know, a lot of trades happened, but the main trade is the Brooklyn trade between, you know, Ben Simmons and James Harden. And we're going to really dissect this because a lot of people are talking about this, but they're not talking about it properly. They're not really going into details like I've been. You probably heard even the previous video about the James Harden trade. I called it before it even happened because I was like, dog, they might say they're not doing it, but if I'm Brooklyn, I'm doing it. And they know they had to because, again, Harden, he wants to go. Like, certain report, you can tell when reports are cap and when it's not. Like that Kyrie report is probably cap with the whole whatever. Or maybe it's not. Maybe they overheard him and cussing or whatever the case is. But you never know. Those are the ones where they're saying a player like says this or this. But when they're actually talking about like this guy's unhappy and he wants out or whatever, a lot of the times that should be true. Right? And you could tell, especially when you follow, if you don't isolate it, you have to look at it in context. Those statements isolated is hard to know if what's true or what's not, but you can kind of know if something's true based on the level of play, the level of energy, stuff like that. Harden's level of energy and play was decreasing drastically during this losing streak that the Raptors, that the Brooklyn Nets were going on. And then when you follow that with the reports and you can see the team disengaged and not on a string and not moving, because even though the Nets were losing some games and getting blown out by big teams, even when KD was there, they still were the number one seed because that continuity, when they needed to turn it on, we'll be able to turn it on. When you'll still see them high five each other, like, you know what I'm saying? You weren't seeing that much, right? During this last half, or this last stretch. And especially when KD went down, because KD's bucket getting and his morale and his leadership, you could see the team kind of just follow suit behind him, even when you can see James Harden just going through the motions. But now when you isolate that and take that away, and deplete that, there's no KD there. Now it's like, it's just straight James Harden and then Kyrie only half the time. You could see what you see. And the funny thing is when it's just Kyrie and the morale was different, even though they lost games, the way they would play and the way they had continuity, they just got outmatched power-wise because they don't have that much shooting. You have a lot of non-shooters in the game. They're triple teaming Kyrie, etc. So it's hard to win. But even then, they'll push it to its max ability and fight. And you can see that the morale, the bench, cheering, whatever was still there. It's when James Harden was playing, you didn't really see it. And you kind of, if you have the trained eye, you could kind of see that. So that's where I'm like, okay, these reports are definitely true. And then the report saying he didn't want to get backlash, like, so it makes sense because I'm like, James Harden requesting a trade is the dumbest thing image-wise that he could ever do. When you requested a trade, left, and you're with a big three that didn't play together that much, but when they played, they're 13-3, only 16 games. Why would you want out when they just have to get healthy? Why would you want out? And people making it seem like it's Kyrie. That's cap. It's not Kyrie. It's not Kyrie. The whole, he can't play half the time. That's not the reason. That's not the reason. Obviously, he wanted him to. Everybody wanted him to. But that's not the reason. The reason is you could see James Harden, especially this year after the decline has happened, you could see part of the decline isn't just the hamstring. Some of it is, and the rule change, some of it is. But part of the decline in James Harden was the play style. So what I mean by this, Harden is so used and he's comfortable and he's happy. He's at his best. He's at home. He's in paradise. He's on a vacation. He's in heaven when he has one-dimensional players around him. So like 3-and-D players who can only catch and shoot, don't really create that much. And a big that could just roll and is a lob threat. And then he could do his play style, which is the PNR, slow PNR, get the switch and kill or not. Throw it to the big for the alley or blow by Euro layup or blow by floater or blow by alley and then pass to shooters. He doesn't want to play with guys who are multifaceted where now that means you're more off ball in times. You're off ball in scenarios. Your play style, you try to run. It's like if it doesn't work, it's like, it's not even, you can't just run it all the time. Even though he runs it a lot in majority of the times, even with the Nets, even with KD there, he ran that slow PNR a lot of the times. I'll probably say 60 to 70% of the times he was running that shit. But the thing is, there's in his back of his mind, he's like, okay, I can't do it this play. These guys need ability. They have ability. Set the down screen pin down for Joe Harris, Patty Mills, whatever. Like he's playing outside than what he wants to play. If you watch James Harden in Houston, every single play up the court was the same, unless it's transition. It's to the point where Eric Gordon, even guys who could dribble, Ariza, any man who got the rebound will literally wait for James Harden and pass it to him and he walks it up. That's how bad it was. To the point where he's just doing the same come up the court, PNR, it's the same thing every single time, every play. And that was paradise for him. So now when you tell a man to switch that, even if it's 20% or 30% of the times, you're just remembering and reminiscing what I was doing in Houston. Damn, it's not the same. It's hard when you like tell a smoker to not smoke now, or even cut it off 20%. You get withdrawal, basically. That's what's happening. He's getting withdrawal. So even though he did it for half the season of last year and half the season of this year, at some point you get withdrawal, especially when your level of play individually goes down and you're in the media and you know James Harden is on media and looking around and you see that people are calling you a shell of yourself. You're like, yo, I want to just get back to my situation and let me be who I need to be so I can shut mans up. And that's what's happening with Harden. He's unhappy, not from the point of KD and Kyrie, I don't like playing with them, but from his individual point in terms of he had to sacrifice, in terms of the way he's becoming and the way he's feeling and looking individually, he feels that he's a shell of himself and he doesn't like it from an individual aspect. And people can say it's selfish, yes, but that type of player sometimes it's hard to just be a complete different player. Because again, he had to, even though he didn't have to sacrifice the most, KD and Kyrie potentially had to sacrifice the most, but it didn't look like they did to the naked eye because their ability is so elite that they could spot up, they could do whatever, and it doesn't matter. They could still get 30s, even though the way they would get a 30 or a 40 or a 50 is different. If there was no Harden, they would have the ball more, PNR, pull and drop coverages, and ball handle way more, and ISO way more, and just kill way more without being off the ball, which means way more buckets. They sacrifice being more off the ball, but it doesn't look like they sacrifice because their ability off the ball is the same with their ability on the ball. So they're still getting 30. So they're just that elite that their sacrifice doesn't really affect them individually. You know what I'm saying? But for James Harden, his sacrifice affects him individually drastically because his ability is a one-dimensional ability. Like I said, that PNR play style, slow walk, he has to do. Outside of that, or if you make him off the ball even for, if there was 10 possessions, he off the ball for 2 out of the possessions, he's uncomfortable. Or even it's 3 off the possessions or 4. He wants it 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10. So when you look at it from that perspective, play style wise, there was a clash with the Brooklyn Nets because everybody on the Nets, Joe Harris, Patty Mills, KD and Kyrie could play off the ball, play within actions, play off pin downs, play in pick and roll, play one-on-one. Not really Patty and Joe Harris, but Kyrie and KD could do what Joe Harris and Patty do and could do what Harden do like they're unlimited. So those actions aren't really happening as often when James Harden's on the court, ball handling, bringing it up, slow walk, doing what he's doing. The tempo slows down. The way they push, like Nash, you know him. He wants to push. He did that as a player. So they want to push. That's why when Kyrie gets the ball, they push and they score. Their up tempo is KD gets the ball, they push. But when Harden gets the ball, no push. And it's just slow walking. It's the same one-on-one. Blow by. Like, come on now. You know what it is. So when you look at it from that perspective, even though they will score 120, if you break down how the 120 happened, the up-tempo offense, overall they'll say Brooklyn's up-tempo offense because of how much they're scoring. But if you really dissect it, when James Harden's out the game and it's KD and Kyrie, they're at their max in terms of up-tempo. Flow. Golden State like. Flow. When James Harden's in the game with the bench and it's slow tempo, one-on-one, everything is, when all three of them in the game, in moments, if you break it down, if KD gets the rebound, they gone. If Kyrie gets the rebound, they gone. If Harden's bringing up and he advances to Kyrie and then quick in the first top half of the shot clock, they do it. But then for the most part, Harden is having it and then it's boom. KD now has to ISO boom. Like they get it late in the clock like it's a slow game. So, Harden kind of clashed with what Brooklyn really wants to do and what their ability is destined to do. And Ben Simmons fits that perfectly as we now transition. So when you look into that, this trade for the Nets side, before we look at the Sixers, for the Nets side, you could look at it and see Ben Simmons fits perfectly with the Nets because he will essentially be a Draymond Green 3, maybe 4.0, because Draymond Green, not even just look at them individual skill set, just within the flow of the offense. Draymond Green, when he does a handoff to Steph Curry or to Clay, or, relocates and hits them and stuff like that, and they're getting pin downs and getting back screens and flares and whatever they're getting, right? And coming off the curl, or Draymond in the post and another man sitting in the back screen, he's playmaking. But then he doesn't take advantage of situations where he does it sometimes, where now they're focused on Curry. They look, and then he, fakes the handoff, goes, and then punches or something. He doesn't really do that often. He does it here and there, but he's not aggressive, which is why I only average 7 points. He's not aggressive doing that. When he gets the rebound, he's aggressive pushing downhill, but he's not for him to score. He's aggressive to playmaking. He's aggressive pushing the tempo, and he's aggressive in how he moves with the ball, playmaking, whatever. And defensively, you already know he's a nightmare. But Ben Simmons does all that, but he's aggressive, taller, and more athletic. Remember, Ben Simmons 6'10", fam. He's hugging KD height. He's 6'10", fam. He's basically Scottie Pippen. Like, think of it like Scottie Pippen. Draymond is essentially plays like Scottie, but without the athleticism and without the aggressive offensively. So that's why he looks like a Rodman version of Scottie. That's what Draymond looks like, right? But Ben Simmons is literally Scottie. The perimeter defense, the running downhill. Maybe my mount won't be aggressively shooting, but when did Scottie really shoot, right? And Scottie did have a bag when he was comfortable, sometimes without MJ and whatever. But for the most part, when MJ was there, he was looking like Ben Simmons. And playmaking, and MJ was in the post, etc. But the paint, he could go downhill, he could whatever. So when you look at it from that perspective, you add Ben Simmons in these actions. Ben Simmons doesn't even have to shoot 1-3. He has to shoot threes when he's with Embiid, because Embiid just sitting in the paint. So I can't just really go to the paint. And when Embiid has one-on-ones, he takes the ball out of my hands, and I just have to be in the dunker spot like DeAndre Jordan or Rudy Gobert. So when you look at it from that perspective and you analyze it, with the Nets, imagine Ben Simmons doing a handoff with KD, doing a handoff with Joe Harris. Now you add Seth in the trade, doing a handoff with Seth that he been, doing a handoff with Kyrie, doing a pin down with Kyrie passing it to KD, and then off the pin down, Ben slips ASAP, you throw the lob. Or they miscommunicate, and the both off the pin down, both guys run to KD aggressively because you already know he's that guy. He could just catch and shoot off the pin down. That now Ben Simmons just slips off the pin down alley from Kyrie from the top. Athletic threat, lob threat. Like, come on now. Ben Simmons gets the rebound running downhill. You have to pay attention to the shooters running the wings, and maybe KD diving. That now Ben Simmons has free lane go punch. You now collapse to him, dime to the shooter in the corner, Joe Harris. Dime to the shooter, Patty Mills, they still have. Dime to the shooter, Seth Curry. Come on, what are we talking about? Dime to Kyrie, dime to KD, pump fake, one dribble pull. Like, dog, what are we... Fake the handoff, go punch. Like, what are we talking about? He will average 18-8, and I'm telling you, then the defensive capabilities Harden that Simmons has, as opposed to Harden, dog, this is night and day. They're gonna forever. Like, Ben Simmons is not just coming around isoing. Now, if they switch, Ben Simmons could go to the post, and then the Ben Simmons you're gonna get. This is what I try to tell people. Now, when just like Giannis shot more threes. Why? Because he's comfortable. The whole paint is his. He could go and score at any time. Now, when you let Ben Simmons have the whole paint, you let Ben Simmons thrive and be himself, where there's no clash play style-wise. The paint is not clogged. He could do whatever he wants to do, because even the big Aldridge could shoot. Even the big Blake could shoot. Only one is Drummond, but you don't have to play him with Drummond. Or if you're playing with Drummond, Ben Simmons could play with a big that can't shoot. He did it with Greg Monroe in the playoffs, because that guy's not just always sitting there. Andre's setting back screens as well for Kyrie and Joe Harris. Now Ben Simmons attacks the paint. Like, you can manipulate it. Embiid is just on the block, fam, and has the ball. So you don't have to necessarily have a shooting big at all times to leave him with the paint. It's the play style and where that guy's operating, where he's at when I have it. That's what we're talking about. So then look at it again. Now you have that, right? Now Ben Simmons is living in his comfortable play style. Don't you think he's going to shoot more? Don't you think he's going to make more free throws now? There's no worries. All I have to do is do my weakest thing. I'm not comfortable. I'm not even getting hot to even shoot. I already don't shoot. You want me just out the blue just shooting? No, let that guy thrive in his main ability. This is the mental aspect and the mental approach people don't take account for when it comes to basketball players, right? That's why Giannis is there shooting threes, now doing post fades, now doing other stuff, because if those shots missed, he could at any time go to the paint and do what he does. He's comfortable. So now let me twinkle, add one to the bag, sprinkle that in and whatever. Let me do a 1-2. Let me Salt Bay it and do that real quick. You get what I'm saying? Add that 1-2 shot. Now I'm comfortable. I can add more. Ben Simmons was never comfortable because the paint was clogged. He had a playstyle clash with Embiid. You just want him to shoot out the gate now when he's already has demons with shooting? Now you're going to get a different Ben when I'm living in my play style and I'm eating in high up tempo offense. And you already know Ben's going to push the tempo off defensive stops because he's going to get more steals, more defensive padding, more people in lanes because he's forced pickups and stuff like that. Then not only that, off the rebound, that boy pushing. You know what I'm saying? And then not only that, when he has the ball, he's not just ISO. When he has to go to an action, so those actions will always exist. That tempo will always exist. And it's beautiful. It's a match made in heaven for Ben Simmons, man. A match made in heaven, even for the Nets. Like, their best game as a trio, as a big three, was when Harden wasn't there and they faced the Bucks, an elite team, and beat them by 40. That was their best game. Game 2 in the second round last year. Not game 4 with Brooklyn versus the Celtics. Because again, there was no Jaylen Brown. And yes, they were eating, but a lot of it was one-on-one. There wasn't bare actions. They were eating. That was the best for the trio, the best as a trio. But as a team, in the trio era, it was when James Harden was out. And it was that 40-point win versus Milwaukee in Brooklyn. That was their best game. Actions were galore. Everything was happening. Blake was eating. Every man was eating. KD and Kyrie had 23, 25, whatever it was. And they still blew them out by 40. Why? Because the ability and the movement and the nonstop. Like, it's tough, man. It's tough. The tempo, the flow, all of that existed. So Ben Simmons is a threat to that. Then you give them Seth Curry, Patty Mills, Seth Curry, Joe Harris. And the way they're just making Seth Curry like he's starting, again, we don't know if Joe Harris comes back. If Joe Harris comes back, he's always starting because that length. I'm bringing Patty Mills and Seth Curry off the bench. I'm not starting Seth Curry and have Seth Curry and Kyrie in the backcourt. No, I'm having Joe Harris. I'm having Kyrie, Joe Harris, KD. You know what I'm saying? Ben Simmons at the 4 or KD at the 4. Ben Simmons at the 3. Don't matter. And then either Drummond, Aldridge, or Blake. Don't matter. That's what I'm doing. If you even want to do Drummond, go ahead. Because you have 4 shooters. Or 3 shooters, sorry. You have 3 shooters around Ben. But to give him space and to start, maybe you do Marcus. And that's 4 shooters. That's different. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, Brooklyn definitely won the trade. Light years. And you get 2 picks. Light years. And they're both first round. Light years. They like what the Nets you're gonna see is gonna literally slap the trio Nets because again, it's both. They have the tempo they're in is always in that elite tempo with actions unguardable. You can't guard that. Because when you force them to one-on-one sometimes, that's when it's like, okay, maybe I could guard that. Harden suss it. Maybe I could guard whatever. But you're not living in the one-on-one always. You're living in the actions and then one-on-one if the actions get padded and you already know what they do. They didn't have no actions before. It was just, well, they did in some scenarios. But for the most part with Harden PNR, when he's doing that, there was no actions beside the PNR. And it led to an ISO anyways because man switched everything. Go look at the Celtics series. But you're going to live in those actions. So up-tempo, elite ability, create mismatches, there's just so much you create. The flow is different. Unguardable. They won't be able to be stopped offensively. Even though you just look at Ben Simmons, he can't shoot. You think they're going to be stopped because they have a non-shooter. No, look at the whole team and the personnel and the fit. It's going to be unstoppable. Then now you add the fact that they will have defense at a way elite version than they actually had. It's like you increase the offense because you're always living in that unlimited flow. And then the defense gets increased because you add Ben Simmons and you add elite defensive capabilities and ability. They're going to slap that team. The Brooklyn Nets team you saw with James Harden is going to get slapped out the water when you see. It's going to be Golden State 2.0. That's what you're going to see. Ben Simmons at a Draymond 2.0. You're going to see KD and Kyrie at a Steph Clay 2.0 in terms of what they can do and what there's nothing they can't do. Steph Curry, you already know sometimes one-on-one, he can't do that. Depending on who's on him. Clay one-on-one, you already know you're not just living in that. Shooting, yes, they're at the marksmanship ability, but when you pad that and you make them one-on-one, can they do that? When you pad Brooklyn and you make them one-on-one, they got two guys who could do that with the best. They're probably the 2 best one-on-one players in the NBA. unlimited bags, even in history. At their position, Kyrie's probably the best one-on-one PG of all time in terms of skill, and KD's probably the best small forward one-on-one or just skill player of all time. So like you have both of them, dog. It's dog. Kyrie gonna re-sign. They're gonna run this dog. Do I smell a three-peat, fam? Like, yo, this is gonna be different. And then you get younger with Ben, and come on now. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful, yo. So let's look from the Sixers standpoint. This is why the Sixers lost the trade, because the James Harden you're getting is James Harden, like he said, he wanted Embiid in Houston. James Harden did not work with Dwight Howard. Why? Dwight Howard wanted to post up and get in his bag. James Harden wanted him to be like Capella. James Harden worked with Capella. Why? Capella has no bag. He's not ever trying to post up or do anything one-on-one. So he's just going to run the same P&R, and he's happy doing it because I get bare alleys. I maximize myself. He's a DeAndre Jordan. You're going to make Embiid a DeAndre Jordan, fam? No. Embiid is MVP candidate this year. Why? Because of the bag he's displaying, unlimited ability, could post fade, could shimmy, could ball handle on the perimeter. What are we talking about? And his mental fortitude in the clutch is different. Like I like he has to show me. Even James Harden. So you have both mentally frail guys in the clutch, and you're telling me that's even a different discussion. I'm not even gonna dive into that, but that's something to pay attention to. Because they don't make the best decisions in the mental clutch. You already know. Embiid, you just saw it the other game. You just saw what he did in the clutch. You saw what he did in the clutch versus the Hawks. You see, like, his mental fortitude in the clutch he hasn't overcome nothing. James Harden hasn't overcome nothing. His palms are sweaty in the clutch. Same with Embiid. Now you have who's the one to not be palm sweaty? Because remember, the furthest the Sixers went maximizing was with Jimmy Butler. He was the mental strong one in the clutch. You don't have that anymore. Embiid's supposed to be that. Harden's supposed to be that. Do you believe in that? I don't. I will never. They have to show me. So then now, not only that, now you're making Embiid just roll? Or you're going to still have him post up OD, then Harden, what are you going to do off ball? You're going to complain. You're going to be mad. It's going to be the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, dog, what are we talking about here? We have to understand the play style. We have to understand what's actually clashing. Them two might not be as successful as people think. They will clash. They still have some times when they get buckets or whatever through the P&R, but they have two different play styles. Embiid wants to post up one-on-one and kill on the perimeter when he gets it. Like, he wants the ball to be able to do his stuff. Harden wants the ball to be able to do his stuff. But Harden wants Embiid to set the screen and just roll so he could do his stuff. Those are two fits that don't even fit, even though it looks like they fit. Pay attention. This is where it's IQ. That's what I do. And that's why I'm like, dog, I can see this becoming a disaster. Maybe not like a Westbrook situation. I mean, they're still winning somewhat, or they're winning, but then in the playoffs, it melts and it breaks down because, again, the root of it is a fit clash at the root of it. You're trying to mask it by doing all these other things and trying to make it, okay, your turn, Embiid, your turn, but there's a fit. When there's a fit problem, when you get to those tough scenarios in the playoffs, those tough situations, when man's forced you to your weakness, if there's a fit clash, it will get exposed in those moments when man's forced you to it. That root will always come to the forefront. That problem will always come to the forefront. It's the same thing you're seeing with LeBron and, you know what I mean, in their closing lineup. That root it always comes down to it. And I even think they even have a more of a fit issue with LeBron and AD. The bubble was capped. You even see without Westbrook, that same fit is a problem in the. You seen them losing to the Blade. Like, I'm telling you, man. Anyway, it's a different discussion, but you can see fit clashes, even though you just look on paper, they look elite. That's why KD and Kyrie so beautifully meshed, because there's no fit clash. If Kyrie wants to one-on-one and dance all day, KD could live off the ball and spot up, and it don't matter. Kyrie could live off the ball and spot up. It don't matter. There's no fit clash. KD could post up. Kyrie could post. Like, they could do whatever. Dog, the skills is unmatched. So, and then not only that, now you add Tobias Harris. You think Tobias Harris is going to be a spot-up shooter? That's not what he was. He also got it in the mid-post. He also got it off actions. He also got it, got his ISOs. Is he going to get his ISOs? Okay. Now, another point, is Doc Rivers going to run the same P&R that Harden wants to run? That even, the clash from Harden and Doc is already, like, Doc ain't a D'Antoni where, okay, whatever you want, Harden, do that. No. Doc will say, yo, we run, Embiid needs in the post. he will dictate the play. He will draw the play that's going to clash with what Harden wants. Is Doc going to get fired then? Is Harden going to want out then? Like, there's so many clashes and stubborn, strong-minded players that see different things and play differently or view the game differently that is going to clash already just off those three. Doc, Embiid, and Harden. Because you know what Harden wants. So I'm like, the way you just think it's going to fit like that. I mean, Korkmaz spotting up. And again, you're going to make Tyrese Maxey, you're going to make him spot up. People saw Tyrese play, but he was playing point guard. He wasn't just spotting up. He was playing point guard, and then he'll give it to Embiid. He'll spot up in those scenarios, cut, get it off the shot crate, especially when Embiid's not there. You're going to make him just a spot-up shooter now because Harden's going to run the point? Was it Maxey running the point? Like, there's the way mans are just dismissing these. It's not like if you kept Seth and then traded Maxey, then maybe you look at it as, okay, Harden run the point, and Seth is a spot-up. It don't matter. But you kept Maxey because you see what he's doing, but Maxey's essentially more closer to what James Harden is than to what Seth is in terms of a shooter. You want Maxey shooting, even though he can shoot here and there, but he's shooting within rhythm. He's getting it because he got it off creating, pump fake, one dribble, doing the floaters, going to the paint off the pick and roll with Embiid, etc. He was playing like how Harden plays, and then, but not like how Harden plays, but you know what I mean? Running P&R, ball handling, going to the cup, doing all of that, and then off the spot up on B ISO and getting doubled off the block. Then now Maxey's hitting spot ups. But now you just want to make Maxey a spot up? He's going to look fugazi. He's going to be bricking. You can't make a creator just spot up. That doesn't work in basketball. They need rhythm. When a guy is the best of both, when a guy is a marksman and a creator like a KD, like a Kyrie, that's when it don't matter. Or like a Melo, that's when it don't matter. But a lot of these guys are just creators. You can't make Jordan Clarkson just spot up. You can't make Kuz just spot up. You can't make Ingram just spot up. They're creators. They shoot the three based off their rhythm. Come on, y'all. I'm talking to someone. I'm preaching out here, fam. Come on now, yo. Anyways, you already know. That's why I look at it with the Sixers. It could have worked, but people thinking that it's a championship and the way, I don't even see that. Like, they're not beating the Bucks in a series. No, they're not beating the Nets in a series. Like, the Sixers are basically didn't move. When they had Simmons, the way I saw them is the same way with Harden. It might even be a bit less. Because again, Harden's not playing defense like that. Is Harden going to be Houston Harden? Like, I don't, like, and then you still have Thibault. It's not even like they have bare shooters around them. But Seth was majority of the shooters. Seth was the shooter. He was the one that made them different. Go look at the series versus the Hawks. He was the one that made them different. Like, people are forgetting. Like, all right, come on now, dog. It is what it is, man. At the end of the day, man, mans will see. If I had to guess, I think the Sixers are in the same position without Ben, the same position with Ben, the same position with Hart. They're in the same exact position. Probably a second round exit. People have them as a championship favorite, but they're actually not. It's cap. That's the same thing. Nothing has changed. Where Brooklyn has actually increased. For not just 1 year, for future. They're going to re-sign Kyrie. They're going to do this for the long haul. Ben Simmons lost money. He's going to make his money back. He's going to snap. His next contract going to be D. Like, come on now. As long as they have them three as the trio, then they could get, let's say they lose Patty. They still have Seth. Let's say they lose Seth. Get it? You could get players who move in that Seth, Joe Harris, Patty ability and keep the same core, and you could run this for a while. What? 6 years, 4 years, 5 years? Like, that's a long haul. Even if they don't win this year. And I still think when healthy, they don't need time together because the actions they're running is just, you're letting people play how they play. That's what people don't understand. You're not changing how someone plays. So where you need time to get over the fit and no, I need to know where you like. No, they're not. Ben Simmons is going to play how he plays. So it's not going to be no fit, no long acclimation. He's going to be able to be himself. Joe Harris is able to be himself. Patty Mills is able to be himself, still run the actions like he does and like he plays. Patty Mills plays more like Australia here with Brooklyn than he played with the Spurs, where he had to like run the plays and stuff like that. That's why you see him comfortable. Seth is going to be able to be himself. Like, you're letting guys beat themselves. Blake beat himself. He had to change a little bit, but the way the new Blake was anyways, this is how he plays. Aldridge is able to be himself. This is why everyone's able to beat himself. That's why KD is one of the greatest talents to ever play, because he lets mans beat themselves. It doesn't affect him. And that's why every team he's on maximizes the amount they could maximize, the wins and whatever, because Mans can beat himself. Westbrook was able to beat himself with KD. Is he able to be that with LeBron? No. There's levels to everything. Understand what I'm talking about. I'm preaching, fam. Anyways, I think this trade is better for the Nets than for the Sixers. I'm thinking, the way people think it, Shaq and Kobe and did it. No, Shaq and Kobe were able to beat themselves. Shaq was able to beat himself, PNR, and still post up, and it don't matter to Kobe because he can play off the ball, he can slash, he can cut, he can still spot up. I could do whatever, go eat, big boy. You think Harden is going to be happy with just Embiid posting up every play? What are we talking about here? What are we talking about here? It's not a Shaq and Kobe. Don't ever disrespect. That's the Perkins too. Don't ever disrespect, mans. You're smarter than that, or you should be. Don't ever disrespect. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Come on now. Anyways, it's True Talks. So True Talks. Share, like, and subscribe. We out here. There's no doubt here. There's no doubt here. You feel me? I appreciate y'all. You already know. This is beautiful, man. Like I said, the Nets are good. Like the Nets, people that can't foresee what the Nets are going to be. Like this Nets team is the Nets team I envisioned when KD and Kyrie were there. This is what I envisioned. When Harden came, I was like, okay, yes, the trio's one-on-one unguardable. Like they could live in one-on-one. If they could one-on-one all day, every day, don't matter because they're that nice. But I love the Nets and KD and Kyrie when they lived in the action, especially with Joe Harris, when the actions was happening. When you saw Golden State 2.0, that's when I was like, this team is just, but Harden kind of countered that. But it didn't really matter because those trio one-on-one were still that elite. But if you can live in those actions all the time and one-on-one here and there to sprinkle, and it's going to be KD and Kyrie, and they maximize their ability, this is the team I envisioned. This is what I want when I see KD and Kyrie duo. This is what I envisioned. From the first time they signed together. This is what I envisioned. Oh, man. Dog, this is beautiful. Dog, I'm amped again. I'm amped again. This is what I envisioned, Joe. This is what I envisioned. Anyways, you already know True Talks is True Talks. You already know. Click that notification button so you know when I'm here. Because I'm here. You already know that's that IQ because that's what I do, boy. Click my links again, too, below. Follow my Twitter, my IG, and follow my other profiles. You already know. I appreciate y'all. Follow the social media. It is what it is. We out here, man. There's no doubt here, and there's no drought here. Let's get it, boy. And I'm out, man.